Right, let's get more reaction to the sad news that the former England cricketer Graham Thorpe has passed away at the age of 55. Let's speak to a man who knew him well, Angus Fraser. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. Really tough news to wake up to this morning, wasn't it? How are you feeling and how will you remember Graham?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm pretty numb, actually. It's funny because I sort of went to bed quite early last night and woke up this morning and missed a call from Mark Butcher and saying give us a call, and obviously you realised what it was about quite early on this morning. So yeah, it's hit me hard. I think it's hit everybody in the game hard, to be honest, because we know that he's been having a difficult time of things recently. And you don't wish that on anybody that you've spent so much time with. I think I played more than 50% of my test matches with Graham, so spent a lot of time with the man. Really enjoyed his company, and obviously, well, a wonderful cricketer and a really nice bloke too.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about him, as you said, as a bloke, as a person. Tenacity, fight, resilience is what we heard about him when he was playing. Off it, give us an insight into your relationship and what he was like.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it was a bit different then, the setup. So, I mean, we weren't centrally contracted, so we'd play for England and then go back to your counties. And whilst the relationships were strong, they're probably slightly different to the ones now where you're living and breathing together. But I always used to, I mean, when you think of things now, he always used to call me Soup. And that was basically because there was an umpire called Steve Buckner who called when I was in a test match, and he overheard it. And the reason for that is because you're dishing it up. So it wasn't a particularly complimentary remark about my bowling in a humorous way. And Thorpe always sort of picked up on that and used to call me that every time. Hello, Soup, in the way that Steve Buckner used to. But yeah, quite quiet bloke. Again, I say in those days, sort of batters stuck together a little bit more than the bowlers did, but very deep, very thoughtful. I think Mike Allerton was right, was sort of saying that sort of off-field things could affect him. And if he was a happy-go-lucky Graham Thorpe, then he was a wonderful player. I'd say the breakup of his first marriage hit him hard too, and it's always seemed a little bit troubled after that. But yeah, I mean, someone who was a wonderful player, very thoughtful about his cricket, cared a lot, really worked hard at his game, and I say you just sit here pretty numb, really. I mean, he's 2 or 3 years younger than myself, and it was only his birthday last week, so it's a really bit of news that's hit everybody hard, especially during a period now when we're all celebrating wonderful sport at the Olympics, and then something like this comes along and sort of smacks you between the eyes.
Yeah, talk to us. You said as he stepped out, he just became almost someone else playing cricket. We've heard a lot about so many people that wanted to emulate him. 100 on his Test debut, that great innings in Karachi. What was he like to play with? How good a player was he?
Oh, he's a top player. I mean, you sort of look at his record, to be averaging sort of mid-40s, 45. There are not many people who do that in this day and age. And you think sort of your Athertons and your Stewarts are England greats, and they averaged high 30s. So to be averaging 5 runs more than those two sort of says how good he was. Yeah, very reliable, very gutsy, got runs against the best. I mean, you look at the attacks that he scored runs against. Ambrose and Walsh for the West Indies, Donald and Pollock for South Africa, McGrath, Gillespie, Australia, Akram and Yunus for Pakistan. So he stood there in the face of all these great fast bowlers and scored runs against them both home and abroad. So, yeah, just a wonderfully consistent, reliable cricketer that I suppose you as a bowler, hoping not to get out there in the field and bowl, you took a lot of satisfaction knowing that he was at the crease, because if he was there, you could put your feet up for a while and enjoy watching him play.
We're looking at some of his great highlights on Sports News at the moment, and I think when people remember him, and I think Dave Fortin made the point, when your back was against it, when you really needed something, a bit of grit and determination, he was your man. And I think it took a lot of people back to that innings in Pakistan in the dark in 2000. I know Nasser Hussain's talked about it a lot. How impressive was what he did then to win that Test match?
Yeah, I mean, I say scoring runs at Test level is hard, no matter what. This is the match. It's a famous moment, running down with the hands in the air, both him and Nasser. Obviously, one of his best mates, and he'll be unbelievably saddened by this news because they were very close. But yeah, you just sort of, I don't know. It just brought calmness to the crease, and I say not an over demonstrative Nasser, the sort of slightly sort of excitable one there. Whereas Graham, I wouldn't say he's taken it all in his stride, but that's what he was there to do. So yeah, a real source of comfort when he was out there batting for you as a team. And I say played so many great innings, and I think that was the thing as well. He didn't. I think his high score was 200 not out, which I don't know whether that was the game in New Zealand where he smashed it everywhere. But there weren't big hundreds, but he scored runs every time he went out there. I think he got 39 50s. So he's regularly performing for his side and helping them win games of cricket.
He went on to coach, didn't he, in 2005. We've been hearing about the current crop of England players and the impact that he had on their career. Joe Root has talked about him as a mentor. Ben Stokes, we know, wore Thorpe's cap number on the back of his shirt when he found out about the illness a couple of years ago. Ben Duckett as well. He crossed the generations, didn't he? He was admired and emulated, and it shows what he was like as a cricketer and a coach that so many of those current England players wanted to pay their own tribute today.
I mean, it's not, I mean, everybody looks at the best players that your country's produced, and Graham is one of them, and thinks they should automatically be great coaches. But there are different skills that are required, different attitude. And Graham was a hugely popular coach because I think he's had difficulties himself, because he worked hard at his game, he really empathised with the players and was really good character around them. He wasn't sort of in their face, pushing them. He was very, I mean, the conversations he had, sit back, listen, work with the players, and genuinely there for them, trying to help them improve as cricketers. So, no, he was a very popular coach, and I say a very modern coach in the way that he went around it, in the way that it's not sort of, I suppose, telling you what to do, but working with you and being there for you to try to make you the best player that you can possibly be.
Yeah, you mentioned the attributes that made him a good coach. What about him as a captain? Tell us what he was like as a leader, because he captained his country a few times as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't think he was a natural captain. He wasn't someone who really sought the limelight, to be honest, and wanted to be the star attraction. I think he was quite happy a lot of the time just being an important member of the team and a valued member of the team, but not someone who was looking to be the front, middle and centre of everything that take place. So, yeah, I mean, I say to captain your country is the ultimate honour, and he achieved that. And yeah, I didn't really play under him as captain, so I've got no real experience of that. But I say the qualities that he has as an individual would have brought to that job too.
Yeah, I know you touched on it at the beginning, and actually David Gower talked about how so many bowlers came off worse against him. Finally, what were the memories of playing against him? Have you got one or two that really sort of stick out in your mind today?
I wouldn't say there are a couple of memories of playing with him, and it's sad. It's not sad, but it's funny how you remember sort of mistakes. And I just remember he dropped a catch off Devon Malcolm in a Perth Test match, and in his frustration kicked the ball away, and the ball went flying to the boundary, and they ran 3. And I just remember that sort of summed up that moment on an England tour, and it's something you sort of look back and laugh at now. I'd say playing against him. Yeah, it was just hard work, wasn't it? You knew you weren't going to get an inch. You knew you'd have to get him out. He wasn't going to get it. And I say, if he got in, you'd be bowling him for quite some time. So, yeah, the sort of battles between Middlesex and Surrey, 2 local rivals, he got the better of us on a few occasions. And I'd say one of those players, when you remember, I'm 3 or 4 years older than him, but him coming through when you were, I suppose, a bit more experienced, and who's this youngster coming through, and makes a big impression on you, the way that he goes about his business. So, yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly sad day for the game, incredibly sad day for English cricket. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he is one of the best players that this country has produced. And I say our condolences go to everybody at Surrey, and obviously the family too.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. I know it's very, very difficult, but you shared some lovely memories, so thank you very much for your time, Angus.